Okay, we're right at noon. So I'll go ahead and kick us off. Welcome everyone to the April installment of the Biz Technology Solutions Ask Us Anything webinar. Today we're going to be discussing how to build a successful internship program for your business. I am Melissa Smith-White. I've been with Biz Technology for a couple of years. I've been in business for much longer. This picture is way, I need a new headshot, but I like that picture. I can't help myself. So as the Director of Sales and Marketing here, it's our goal to try to help bring education and topical interest to all of our friends and clients. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Rhea Shafani. Rhea is our Chief Technology Officer and co-founder here at Biz Technology Solutions. Rhea is published from TechTarget and CIO.com. We are a Microsoft Managed Gold partner and has been in business for over 20 years. So as Biz Technology Solution has evolved, over the last 20 years, our goal is to, partner with small to medium-sized businesses to support, manage, and streamline IT. And Rhea has been instrumental as part of the co-founder. So Rhea, you want to say hi and then give us a fun fact?
Hi, everybody. My name is Rhea Shafani, Biz Technology Solutions. We've been with the company. We started the company almost 20 years ago now, and also graduated from UNC Charlotte, which we have Lynn here from UNC Charlotte, and glad to be here, answering any questions or chiming in. I know this subject is really important for me because I started out as an intern, and that's what actually drove me into this career path. So if it wasn't for my internship, I wouldn't be where I am today. So.
Great. And then Lynn, so we have our keynote speaker here today, Lynn Marshall. Lynn is the business partner director at UNC Charlotte. She's been with them for over 5 years with the College of Computing and Informatics. Lynn, I'm going to let you kind of introduce yourself and share a fun fact.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you for having me. As you said, I am the business partners director at UNC Charlotte. I have done that for 5 years. And I like to say that I am a non-technology girl working in a technology world, because my background is not in any way technology. It's actually, my degree is communication, worked in a lot of different areas of communication, but also for the college, I not only oversee the business partners program. Currently, I am overseeing the mentoring program. I am also manage our alumni relations in CCI, and I also support our cybersecurity symposium by helping design the symposium and also supplying the sponsorships. So when you work for a public institution, you wear lots of hats. So fun fact, because I told you that I am a communications person, I worked in radio for a while, I'm also a aspiring voiceover artist. So I have a recording closet in my house that I go into. My husband can't find me. That's where I am, with the closet closed, doing some recording. So that's my fun fact.
What do you voice over?
Commercials, or just, anything that you hear a voice on whether a website or TV, radio, whatever, someone's got to record that voice. So I do some voice stuff like that.
I literally just watched Secret of Whales on National Geographic, and Sigourney Weaver was the narrator, and I loved it. And I can see that for you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Yeah, love that. Okay, well, welcome, Lynn. We're going to have a great conversation today. Want everyone to feel like they can raise their hand, type in a question. We want to make this interactive. And then also wanted to say, please stay to the end, because we're going to be giving away a $25 gift card. So let's get started with a quick poll. Do you currently hire interns? We'll give it a few more seconds and we can close the poll. And 70% say yes, they do hire interns. I've hired interns from the very beginning of my career, and I would say some of the best people that I've met have come out of those relationships. And we, as Rhea mentioned, we all start somewhere. So get us started, Lynn. Why interns?
I mean, why not interns? I mean, I think it really depends on what type of company you have and what you're looking for and why you would want an intern. So understanding your motivation behind hiring interns is probably a reason why you would first ask why interns. Are you looking for an intern just because you want some, inexpensive, low cost labor? Are you looking for an intern because you want to give back, and impact our future of our workforce? Are you wanting to build your talent pipeline, which is a great reason to hire interns, to kind of bring in students, kind of a test drive them, see if they're a good fit for the culture, and see if there's someone you want to hire, full time, because it's kind of a no risk trial to hire an intern. So there's a lot of different reasons why you would want to hire an intern. As you can see right here, why interns, are some great reasons right there. But I do think that there's more of a trend in hiring interns. People realize the value in hiring interns, and they're not just there to get coffee and make copies. I know in the College of Computing, our interns are very valuable and actually contribute, to the workforce and to the day-to-day productivity of the company.
Great. Intern compensation. Let's talk a little bit about the compensation. That's always a big question. What's the difference between a paid internship and an unpaid? Do people even have unpaid internships anymore?
It really depends on the type of work you're looking for. Now, know that if you're hiring an intern, they have to receive something for it. They have to either receive financial compensation, they have to be receiving course credit, or both. And it depends what the compensation might be. Or let me just go back. Why would you not pay an intern? Pretty much for our college, in the College of Computing, most of all of our interns are paid. Our students get paid for the internship program. Now, my daughter, a few years ago, graduated with a degree in electronic media, got her internship at WBTV, and no, they do not hire. So like for broadcasting or communication type roles, that typically, if it's required sometimes for their curriculum, for their degree, they often do not get paid, but they do get that experience. They do get the credit for it. But all of our students in the College of Computing, an internship is not required for graduation. Gotcha. So they typically all get paid. And the reason is our students don't often pursue credit is because, think about it, if a student is getting credit for it, they have to be enrolled in classes. So if they're not taking summer classes, they are essentially paying for that internship. So sometimes they are working for free and they're paying to work for free, because they need the credit and they have to pay for it. So oftentimes our students, because they don't need the credit, they don't apply for credit, and because they would have to pay for it, and they just take the compensation.
How long do internships usually last?
Typically, they're about 10 weeks in the summer. Now, there are some internships that can be during the school year, but the majority of internships, like for our students in the College of Computing, a lot of internships are pretty much the work day. It's majority of the summer. They might start the 1st of June, go through the 1st of August, and they pretty much follow the work day Monday through Friday. So
when you hire an intern, do you take them through the traditional path of employment?
Not quite as, they are typically, a lot of times you do pay your taxes on them and that type of thing. So they're not typically a contractor. So oftentimes they are an employee of that company for the reasons for privacy. And so they fall under the same umbrella and criteria that a normal employee would. So you're going to have to onboard them, to a certain amount. They probably would not be to the extreme that you would a full-time employee. They would not get benefits. They would not, get insurance or 401k or any of those type of things.
Right.
They're a short-term employee.
Right. Okay. So let's switch gears a little bit. So what's on everybody's mind right now? I find, so here we have the mask, and I know the governor just lifted outdoor mask restrictions. So got to give a shout out there.
Yeah.
But has the pandemic changed internships for good?
I don't know about for good. but definitely has changed them during the pandemic. Now, we were very, very fortunate, well, typically because what our students do is in front of a computer.
Mhm.
So our students were very fortunate when, our world started kind of shutting down last year in 2020 around March. We had a lot of our students who had internships signed up for with some, big companies. And we were very fortunate. These companies took the extra effort to pivot so that these students could continue their internship, but do it remotely. And they had to make a lot of changes. Some of them did tighten and shorten the internships, but the majority of our students were able to continue their internship virtually. Many of them are doing the same thing this summer, but some are bringing them back in, for a few times face to face. Now, I don't know this will change the internships for good. I do think that some people have realized that they can keep interns and maybe have them from other places, and they can sometimes work productively and learn virtually. Although I do think as an intern, they're going to be much more productive if they have some oversight and have some mentorship and be in the organization. But I don't think it's going to change it for good. Maybe the actual people realize the value of internships, and actually some people were really surprised how productive interns were without being supervised and without having someone looking over their shoulder day
I
in,
would
day out.
question that myself, right?
Yeah, they were surprised. They were seeing that, a lot of our, especially I would say in our college, I can only speak to the students in the College of Computing and our partners, but they were pleasantly surprised how productive our students were, because they're doing this because they love technology. They want to really learn. They want to use this as a springboard into their career. We kind of put into them all regular basis how important the impact and the impressions they're making early on are going to be to their future career. So I was so pleasantly surprised as the gatekeeper for our college and our student talent to hear from our partners that our students were very productive. And so I think they did realize how productive students can be. And maybe they're going to want to up and increase the number of interns that they hire from year to year.
Well, what I think is interesting, so you hit on something too. I think generationally, when I came out of college, back in 96, when I came out of college, everything was in person. Everything
Sure.
was, and it was a lot of coffee and filing, right?
Sure.
The internships. And so through the course of technology evolution and just evolution of programming, I think we're seeing, these young, students and student leaders are far more proficient in technology. You said you're a non-technology girl living in a technology world. I can relate. But when these students come out, they are highly proficient in technology. I think that's just part of, their training, right? Not just your students from the College of Computing, but I think generally, even from a marketing perspective, because we oftentimes bring in marketing interns. They're so proficient in the technologies that we use. It's, even people that have, that have the coordinator position or the specialist position are learning because I think the technology evolution is happening so fast.
Sure.
Where do we find interns?
Oh, there are so many places, but obviously university campuses, UNC Charlotte, is a great place to find interns. So I think the majority of interns are found on university campuses because typically that's where you're looking for the talent, right? You're looking for people who are looking to move into that career field. And so that's a great place to get them. We have, I'm not sure if you're aware, UNC Charlotte is like maybe the second or third largest university in North Carolina. We have 30,000 students.
Oh, wow. Didn't know that.
30,000 students in our college. We're tucked between 29 and 49. So a lot of people don't even know it's there. So if you're driving down one of those highways, detour and go through our campus, it's beautiful. It's huge. But yeah, 30,000 students. And so we have, I would say, I could say wrong, six colleges, 7 colleges. So we pretty much have any discipline you can look for. So that is a great place. Obviously through, if you're looking for computer technology talent, I'm the gatekeeper for those students, but also we have a very robust career center, and our career center is there willing to help you reach the other colleges if you're looking for talent from other type of colleges. So I would go there. We do have a job posting site for students. It's called Hire a Niner. That is the best way to find students and advertise for interns, is go through Hire a Niner. And we have a very competent Career Center staff who's ready to help you if you need any help posting your job, or know what to look for, or know like type of words to use to derive the best talent. But I think universities are the best place. And don't neglect like our associate levels, colleges, our I'm missing the word,
Community
Melissa.
colleges.
Yes, thank you. Community colleges. There's a lot of great opportunities there at community colleges. I'm sure those students would love internships as well. So I would go to a community college, a university. Those are the best places to find interns.
And what I found too is if you build relationships like with people like yourself too, oftentimes, or even your intern sometimes can replace themselves. They know people that they are going to school with that are just like them. I've found success doing that too for them, especially if it's a good experience for them, they're happy to share. And then and if it's a good experience for you as well. So great options.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think that's the best place to find them. And obviously, if you're looking for, talent in technology, our college is the best place to find them. But there's a lot of places out there, but I would look at universities, community colleges.
Technical schools too, sometimes.
Sure.
So successfully onboarding an intern, what does that look like? Is that, like I said, when I reflect back on my experiences, it was a different world, right? It was a completely different world. But now, I think our students are a little more hopeful and maybe a little more interested in their experience. They have a little bit different of an expectation. How do we successfully onboard an intern into our organizations?
That is a very good question. And it's going to look very different depending on the type of company that you're in. And know that I don't personally onboard interns, but I do work with companies who onboard interns. And I talk to students about their experiences in their internship program. So I can give you some ideas. Some of our partners have very formalized internship programs. They start recruiting for them in March, or not March, but like November, December, and have them all lined up for the summer. They have someone committed to structuring that internship program. So they have a cohort of students that work together in different teams throughout the organization in the internship program. They have people that oversee each group of students depending on where they are. So some are very, very formalized, and they have very structured onboarding. So they have like certain days, they do certain things. They're learning about their software, their technologies, their systems. And you have to keep in mind too, that these are students. So many of them have never worked in a corporate or business environment. So there's a certain bit of training that needs to be provided to help give them some workforce acumen, to understand some of the basic things about working in a corporate environment. Then not to mention the systems and the technologies and the strategies you have. So a plan is what you first have to have. And that plan's going to look different for everyone, but have a plan. I think, as we mentioned earlier, knowing what you want to get from this internship program is a great place to start. Are you hoping to actually get some work done by these interns? Are you hoping just to help align and support and mentor and give back, to interns? Are you hoping to use these as a springboard, to build your IT or whatever your talent pipeline? So know what you want to get from it, but it's definitely going to take some plan. It's definitely going to have some people who are committed to these interns, answering questions, giving them direction, just coaching them along. But I think it's most successful when you have more than one. When you have some interns who are students who are working together, who can at least help answer each other's questions, provide support to one another. But it is going to take some work and direction and coaching to have a successful internship program.
I like that. I think that's probably paramount, is bringing them in almost in pairs or teams, because I know that can be very intimidating and overwhelming. That, I think, is a really good nugget right there.
Right. And sometimes, just add on to that, some of these that have very structured internship programs, they also have structured activities for their interns. So interns will do things after hours, or they'll have special lunches for them. So they also have fun community building activities for their interns if they have, you know, a cohort of interns, but also including having maybe corporate activities that interns can get involved in and kind of see what the culture is like. Because that's really what I tell students, one of the big benefits of internships, and also hearing from our companies as they come on campus to support our business partners program, is getting a better idea of the type of culture that they want to work in. You know, because every company is different, every culture is different. It's not a one size fits all. So the more exposure students get to your company culture, the better idea they get if this is a good cultural fit for them.
And I think moving forward with today's generation, that's super important. I think culture, you know, when I came out of college, it was, you know, really career ladder, right?
Right.
And I know that's still important, but I think people are really interested in that balance more so. You know, I remember early mornings, late nights, for years, you know, and I think in today's generation, there is far more attention given to that balance.
Absolutely.
Which isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all.
No, but it is very different. I mean, our students are often looking for flexibility.
Right.
You know, they're looking to have some options to work at home. They want to give back. You know, they want to know they're going to work for a company that is responsible.
Yeah, the whole altruistic thing.
Yep. So it's very different than it was a few years ago. I won't say how many years ago when we were looking for jobs, but yeah, you kind of have to know your culture. You have to know the demographic. You have to know what they're looking for. Because in many ways, think about it, you are selling your company. We tell students, you know, this company is having to sell themselves on you. You ask them questions. This has to be a good fit for you too. So it's not just the student, the intern trying to sell themselves on you. This is a two-way street. And I can tell you, especially in the technology world, it's very competitive. Very competitive, because our students get lots of different options. And I don't think there's probably not a company or organization out there that does not need like technology talent.
Right.
So selling yourself on them, giving them reasons why they should work for you rather than someone else is really very important. Something you got to think about.
So true. Okay. Develop a role in your organization for the intern. How do we develop a role? How do we actually carve out a place and not just, you know, put baby in the corner?
Right. Well, it's also getting back to what I said earlier, is know why you want an intern there. You know, what is your purpose for them? Have that already spelled out. And it's going to take some manpower. You know, it doesn't just, you just don't get an intern and plop them into a chair and say, go at it. It does take some training. It does take some intentionality, knowing why you want them there and why they should want to be there and what they are going to get from it. So it's a two-way street. It's not just what are you going to get from having this intern involved in your company? What is the intern going to get from being involved in your company? What do you want them to leave knowing? So you're going to have to carve a place for them, find a purpose. They've got to have a purpose. Do you want them to work alongside another employee that you have, or do you want to assign them a certain task or work? But no matter what it is, they're going to require some coaching, some instruction, someone to support them and encourage them. And then figure out like, what are they going to do there? Are they going to have a desk? What is your purpose for them? And that's going to help you know what their role is. What do you want to achieve from this internship? And what do you want them, the student, actually, the intern, what do you want them to gain from it?
I think too, the more organized you are in the development of the internship role, the more capable or more attractive your company becomes as a permanent option. And so, you know, if you just bring them in and you throw them to the wild, that is frustrating, not only for them, but can be for you as the person supporting or, you know, promoting that internship. But I think the more organized you are in developing that role and setting clear expectations, that's one thing that I've learned working with, you know, hundreds of people over the course of 25 years, is clear communication, clear expectation setting, clear measurement, right, is important, because people want to feel success.
Sure.
Right. And so if they feel lost, they're never going to consider you as a permanent option, they're only going to be like, okay, check, got that internship done. But I know I don't want that. And oftentimes, especially people coming just out of school, literally, I interviewed a girl, a young woman, the other day who is coming out of school, and she literally said, I feel like I have imposter syndrome because I've been in school for so long. You know, this is almost surreal to be talking about a permanent position. And so I think, you know, the more welcoming and the more organized and more detailed you can be, because they're looking for that guide, right? They're looking
Sure.
for that guide.
Yeah. And imposter syndrome is so common. You know, we hear that from student after student. They've been in classes, they've taken on for 4 years, and they go, so how do I take what I know and apply it? Am I really capable of this? And, you know, no student is going to come out of the gate being able to work independently and know it all. That's not going to happen. So it is the employer's responsibility to give them the tools and resources and training that the intern, that the young hire needs to be successful. And it is a two-way street. So you're right, Melissa, when you said that if that intern was in that role and got nothing from it, they're not going to come back. But they're also going to tell all their friends,
right,
how negative an experience was, and no one else is going to want to do it either. So it does take, it takes some work. It takes some planning. And I would suggest that anyone who has created an internship program for the first time, talk to some other people who've done it. You know, there are a lot of companies out there who have had internship programs, many who have had the same desires and expectations. Talk to some other people who have had these internship programs, find out how they do it. What do they do to make it successful? And I'm sure they'd be more than happy to give them that information, but just do some research, talk to some people, and put some time and effort into it.
Lynn, quick question. So your role as the business partner director, so, you know, I'm guessing each college has that role. Do you guys help businesses create that internship program?
And actually, we are the only college that has a business partners program.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that.
Yep. So I'll tell you a little bit about our program. And the reason is because, you know, because I mentioned earlier, pretty much every company is a technology company in some shape, form, or fashion. Everybody needs technology students. And because of that, we are constantly bombarded with people requesting our IT talent. You know, they want them for internships, to work on a project, or for some other reason. So we needed to control this in some way. So we started this business partners program, which actually we fashioned ours after NC State. They have a very similar program. But what we do is we have about 30 business partners, and these business partners not only come to campus, onto our college, into Woodward Hall, to recruit our students and to engage with them. They don't just recruit them. They also help them with their interns, with their resumes, with their interviewing skills, set up LinkedIn profiles. I also work with them in helping them become more workforce ready. But these business partners actually financially invest in our college to be a business partner and to have this opportunity to engage with our students on a regular basis. So in my role, I build the relationships with our partners. Then I create opportunities pretty much on a weekly basis for our partners and our students to connect and engage with one another through lunch and learns, meet and eats, tech talks, industry panels, career fairs, workshops, lots of different ways for them to engage. So yeah, no, we are the only college at UNC Charlotte that has a business partners program.
So we're very similar. I always call myself a matchmaker, right? And that's what I envision you as. You're a matchmaker. Right. Yeah.
I am. I call myself that as well. I'm also call myself the gatekeeper. You know, I want to make sure that our students are never taken advantage of. I have vetted all of our partners. I know that they provide astounding opportunities for our students. We'll care for them very well. So yeah, kind of the gatekeeper too, because like I said, everybody needs technology talent. That is why our partners are willing to financially invest for the privilege of engaging with our students.
Great. Well, thanks for that explanation.
Absolutely.
Okay, so only 8% of tasks assigned to interns nowadays are clerical or non-essential. I think, you know, we kind of hit on this a little bit earlier, but really putting, you know, real work in front of the students that are looking for real jobs. That's what I'm taking out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our students, from what I know, they actually contribute to the company. So most of them, they have plans of what they want the students to work on. I mean, they create real things. They create apps, software development, they create processes. And like I said, I can't tell you exactly because I'm not a technology person, But from what I hear, that they actually contribute, and the companies are very, very happy with what they receive from the intern. Now, I know too, if it's even a non-paid internship and the student is getting credit for it, that they have to justify the student has to justify, and the company has to justify what that student is getting from that internship that's going to help them in their academics, help them pursue a career, prepare them. So, just filing paper and getting coffee is not going to do that. So they have to actually be intentional and say, this is what this intern is going to do. This is how it pertains to their chosen field. This is the contributing experience they're going to get. So they have to, even if it's not paid, they have to be receiving real experience for that internship.
When I was in a previous life, I worked for a healthcare organization, and we would accept interns and create programs, but they were not paid, and they had to have the credit for it was marketing. And so we would have to create a project plan, which they, in turn, it was their capstone project. And we actually got some really interesting results out of those, whether it was, analytics, or whether it was just a refresh or redesign of a certain service line or business segment. So I think one way or another, there's got to be some result driven ties to their work.
You make a great point, Melissa, too, which is another reason why you might want to intern in a part of your team, is because these students come with so much energy and creativity and excitement. Sometimes when we work in these roles day to day, we kind of get boxed in, our creativity kind of wanes, and we think about the one way to do things. But when you bring that fresh blood in, that energy, that creativity, they don't know the boxes. They can maybe help you solve problems in a way you would have never thought about, because they're seeing it from a different lens. So that is a huge benefit of having interns, just because of what they bring to the table, this fresh eye view that maybe you need a refresh. So bring in that young energy, that creativity to help you refresh your processes.
And absolutely, and even reach other markets that you're not, you're removed from,
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So assignments and projects, we kind of talked about this a little bit, so I don't want to belabor that. Next poll question: does your company have the proper technology and processes in place to run an internship program?
What is the answer going to be?
I wish I had my magic 8 ball here at home. I have a magic. I have it. I'm sorry.
I just can't wait. You have a magic 8 ball. Wish you had that. And you could just.
I know. I have it in my home office. Note to self, I've got to bring that in. Let's see. I feel like we should have the Jeopardy music playing.
Do, 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 do.
Okay, let's close the poll, and let's see what the results are. 64% say yes, they do have the proper technology and processes in place to run an internship program. 27% said no. One said, I'm not sure. I don't know. So Rhea, from your perspective, what do you think the proper technology and processes are? We can kind of talk about processes, but talk about a little bit about the technology that we need to share with interns.
Well, I think it depends on the company. I know that every company has some privacy that they wouldn't share with an intern, some not things they cannot disclose. As far as you talking about, like what type of, as far as hardware technology or support, or?
Well, I guess, and this is an interesting question, because we literally just brought in a new client that rotates interns, 5 to 7 interns every 12 weeks, right? And so Rhea, and I'm going to specifically ask Rhea, what do you think is important for a business? Because with that technology comes added cost, right? So what are some of the technologies that are available or that are necessary? And then what are some that would make it even better? I call them EBIs. They would be even better if we had these things.
Well, I think the two, we're talking about IT equipment. First of all, just making sure that you have the appropriate equipment for them to use. Second, I think more around the security, and this really ties in nicely into the processes and the SOPs is that when you bring in interns, and whether you're a healthcare organization bringing an intern to help support maybe some technology initiative, whether it's software or IT, they will be potentially exposed to certain things. And for some companies, you may want to restrict that a little bit because they're in training. I mean, again, it's an internship. The intent is to not only get some great ideas from them and get their insights into what they think should be, used or done, but they're also in training, which means they may not, be as seasoned as some other developers. They may have bugs in their code, or they may accidentally access information or share it on social media without knowing the ramifications of it. So you have to treat them, just like every other employee, but you also have to put some additional restrictions just to make sure they're aware and trained properly prior to having them access other systems or even passwords and things like that. Because ultimately, if it's an internship for 3 months or 6 months, they may not be around until the next summer or the next time they come around. So give them access to certain things that, may need to be restricted is extremely important.
So like, do you give interns email addresses with your domain? Is that something you would do?
Yeah, you will still have to give them, the same credentials, emails, of course, if they're going to communicate, even if they're going to communicate internally only, they still want to have an email address, instant messaging tools, especially now if they're going to have flexibility to work remote at times, making sure they have access to collaboration platforms that will allow them to do remote sessions and things like that. So
Okay.
I would still, at a foundational piece, treat them just like every other employee from an IT assets perspective and training, and just add a little additional layer of, maybe some restrictions depending on what they're going to be interacting with, just to ensure, again, they're not rolling out code and things like that are impactful to clients.
Well, and one of the things we talked about earlier is this remote internship process. So what about the whole CYOD? Choose your own device. Is that something, should employers create policies around those? Because a lot of people, I know a lot of students use MacBooks, right? Well, that's not necessarily the technology or the hardware that most businesses use. So is there something along those lines that maybe need consideration? I don't know. I'm just asking.
So
Go ahead.
yeah, go. I was going to say, so I wouldn't want to create a different policy just because now you have interns, because ultimately
Okay.
you take that risk with any employee that you hire, that there could be a short-term employee. So ultimately, it shouldn't be a net new policy that you're adding to the plate just because you're going to have folks that maybe short-term stays. Ultimately, whatever works for the company that makes sense from a security perspective and balancing the flexibility and convenience. Ultimately, almost everybody uses their personal devices for email, for work email, right? Nobody is screaming or blocking people from checking in. It's a convenience for the company because they don't have to purchase new devices to hand to their employees to use for email purposes. Just because, people, most of the time, they just take it upon themselves and use their phones. So for the interns, yes, if they have certain things. Now, it does become, I would say developers in general have maybe some additional policies by default if this is an intern in the IT field where they're a programmer. Things like they have to use a company product or platform if they're going to write code, because number one, that's intellectual property. Number two, you don't want to have, the laptop they worked on for 6 weeks, they pour water on it or accidentally something happens and they lose all that progress. So generally the existing policies that you have for your employees around, source control and things that are generated by folks in the technology field, you would want to apply them for these folks as well. So if you do allow them to bring in their MacBooks or use their personal devices, what security tools are you going to implement? Where is the data stored at? Is it in the servers at the company or is it in the cloud? And, again, whatever applies there that works for the company should also work for the interns.
Gotcha. And Lynn, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, I totally agree. I believe if the other employees receive company computers and you want your intern to have that as well, for one, you have more control over that. Also, you have the firewalls protections that they would not have on their personal devices. And I know for many of our business partners who had their interns work remotely last year, they shipped them everything they needed. To their house came their laptop, whatever devices that they needed them to have, they shipped that directly to them to kind of have everyone on the same playing field and the protections that was needed. So I would recommend that if you do have interns, that you provide them the same devices that everyone else has who works for your company.
Okay, great point. So Rhea, when you're talking about security, let's talk a little bit about passwords too. So, oftentimes, and I'm saying this selfishly because I know we have interns and we at times offer access to our CRM system to be able to help, manage campaigns or put social media content into our calendaring. How do you protect passwords? Are they, role specific? Are they department specific? What types of things should they do in order to allow that intern access to be able to perform work, but then, manage that protection and that security?
I mean, from a security perspective, again, you would treat it just like any other employee. Again, ultimately, all it is, for the same reasons that you have, certain access privileges within any organization. Accounting can only access accounting, things. Executive team can only access executive leadership content and things like that. Administration or admin front office, things like that have a much more restricted. Interns would be no different. You will ultimately have a group that you may branch off and give them a little bit more permissions than maybe somebody in accounting when it relates to IT and software tools to access and download. But then you probably would not want to give them access to HR and things like that are more sensitive. So I would treat them as just any other group where you have to assess what sort of permission that they need to have in order to perform their job so that it's not slowing them down. But you also have to be mindful if they don't need to access certain things, they should not have access to it in the first place. So you'll have to define that. But other things from a security perspective, again, if you have multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication for the entire company, the understanding here is interns are going to have the same thing too.
Right.
There's no reason why they would be any different or be a special case. If they have access to the building and need to come to the building, they need to have a badge or access key. Those are things that you would generally expect and anticipate to have in place, just like you would with other general employees.
Okay, thanks for that. I think this is interesting. 80% of millennials' place of work decisions are influenced by their technology. We're in the technology revolution. And I think, again, we're seeing that more and more and more. I just know, I have a 24-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter, and, where they are on that scale of technology, even my 12-year-old knows more than my 24-year-old at this point, right? And he's pretty savvy. So Lynn, what do you think? What are you hearing from the students as it relates to technology from employers?
Well, obviously, this college I work in, all they do is technology. So they're looking, their roles, they would be totally technology facing and focused. And so the roles that they would go into, would be have all of the latest technologies as well. That doesn't mean that our students are not able to teach them something, because they're up and exploring. Students learn so much from YouTube. It is amazing. They teach themselves programming languages by watching YouTube. So there's so many opportunities and so much learning available on YouTube. It is crazy that you would never think about. So obviously the students' expectations of what type of technology the companies they internship are pretty high, because that's what they're doing. I don't know what the expectations would be for another discipline, but for our students in CCI, the College of Computing and Informatics, they have pretty high expectations of what they are expecting from the companies as far as technology.
Yeah. And I think that because they're doing it outside of work. So, that they want to translate that into every piece of their life. Right.
Right. I was on a call last week. I also do a lot of work with our student organizations, and ACMW, the Association for Computing and Machinery for Women, is one of those. And we were on a call last week, and the girl was saying she was having some trouble with her camera and she needed like buy another camera. She told me she built her computer. She did just go buy it. She built her computer. So we have so many of our students that are doing that. They can't find what they want or want to save money. So they just build it. They create their apps. They create their software. They are so savvy. So yes, you have to keep that in mind, us people who have not been bottle fed technology, that this up and coming demographic generation is very, very different in their expectations and what they're looking for and what they're able to do and learn on their own. They're so much more equipped at being self-taught. They really don't need you to stand over their shoulder and teach them. Show them a video, they will figure it out. That's how they learn everything else.
That is so true. That is so true.
Yeah.
Okay, so just a quick little commercial for BizTech. This is our team. This is our office. You'll see our everybody's smiling. What's that tell you? We love what we do. BizTech is a local IT firm wanting to partner with businesses to manage, support, and streamline their IT. We act as our client's IT department. We co-manage their IT and create solutions so they can focus on their business. I want to say with great appreciation, thank you to both Lynn and Rhea today. I also want to say for our attendees that we are offering a network efficiency score. Really, if things that we've talked about today, security, permissions, different technologies that you've heard about today that are interesting to you, reach out. Of course, we're always interested in having those types of conversations. And then we want to fill out the survey that will be prompted at the end of the webinar. I do want to open it up to any questions. I know that we saw Ada replied in the chat that she started when she was an intern at CPCC in IT in 2015, and it was unpaid. So I think we've got some fellow previous interns on the call with us today. If anybody has any questions or comments or conversation that they'd like to lend to today, definitely open and welcoming that.
Melissa, we had a few questions come in.
Okay.
So the first is, are there any tax incentives for hiring interns?
I did a little research, and there's not a tax incentive across the board. There is a tax incentive for a certain qualified group. And I can't tell you exactly what that qualified group is. You have to talk to your HR department or maybe somebody at the tax office. But for a certain qualified group of people, if you hire them as an intern, there is a tax incentive. Other than that, there is not. As far as I know, I am not a trained tax person.
Gotcha.
Specialist.
Great. We got two more. How much teaching and training is required from the employer when it comes to interns?
That is a good question. And I think as we kind of touched on earlier, it would depend on what type of role that they are looking for the intern to fill. But there is going to always be some teaching and training because, as I said, these students, these interns may not even be aware of some basic workforce acumen, that basics you have to kind of train them with, and also your culture, your processes, your personal, your technologies, some, permissions and protective of information and data. So there's always going to be some, but that's going to depend upon the role. There's not a turnkey, one size fits all. It also depends on the company, how much training is involved.
Great. And our last question, y'all already answered, which was, should your employees be allowed to bring their own Mac computers if that's what they're used to?
Yeah, I think as we said, it just depends on the company, like what their policies for all their other employees, and kind of continue with that same policy.
Agreed.
Okay. Well, great conversation today as usual. And if you have any suggestions on our Ask Us Anything webinars, please feel free to put those in the chat. If there's something you'd like to learn about, or hear more about, we definitely are here to please. So Lynn, thank you so much. It's been my pleasure having this conversation. Rheta, as usual,
Here.
love your perspective and insight. And now I think we're just going to call it a day.
Great.
Thank you so
All right,
much for
guys.
having me. Yeah.
Thank
If
you.
anyone wants to know more about our CCI Business Partners program, my email is lynn.marshall@uncc.edu.
Great. Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.